Hi, my name is Akshita, and I'm your host for today's episode. We have a very special and insightful guest, Monica Encarnacion, the NYC Tech Mommy. Did I get your name right?
Yes, Monica Encarnacion in Spanish,
And
Incarnation in English. You got it.
yes, no one gets my name right, so
I
I
get it.
get it. So, Monica, let's hear a little bit about you. How was the NYC Tech Mommy born? Like, let's hear about it.
Sure. Well, I'm a former New York City teacher, and New York City Tech Mommy was born once I left the classroom. I was finding a way to connect with other parents and to find my community now that I was home with a baby. And I found that parents sometimes shy away from technology, just as teachers did in my experience. I had been a former New York City teacher working with bilingual kids and saw how much technology helped them to learn in the ways that they wanted to learn. And eventually, I became a technology teacher at a new school where teachers did not want to take on that role of technology teacher. And I jumped in because I saw the value in kids using technology. And I believe that it's something that was part of their future and that we should empower them with technology. So that's where my technology, my love for technology and kids using technology came from. But then as a parent, I saw the value in it as my kids started getting older and asking for that technology and finding ways to kind of find that balance between like technologies and our real life.
Yeah.
And that's where New York City Tech Mommy was born as a way to share my experiences and hopefully inspire other families to live simple, live fun, and live life with tech.
Yep. I mean, like I said the last time we talked, like I was going through your website. I was like, I just want to keep reading more as a parent. Like, you want to hear those things that you write about. It's amazing. So you also have children,
I
right?
do. I have two children. I have a 15-year-old boy and a 9-year-old daughter who are very tech savvy kids and have been using technology since they were toddlers. Um, and I empower them to use that, and I foster a love of technology, but in ways that is productive. I think technology is the future for our kids, and just the way that we teach our kids to cross the street safely, to not talk to strangers while walking to school. I think we need to teach them those skills when they interact with technology as well to keep them safe. And I think that the best way to do that is to engage our kids in technology together.
Yes. I mean, you're all about raising responsible digital citizens of tomorrow, right? So, I mean, balancing the screen time versus hands-on activities is something that you're an expert at. So, I'm sure a lot of parents want to hear that too.
Well, I think, I wouldn't say that I'm an expert at it. I'm a parent. And I think all of us parents are expert in our own children. So when it comes to my children who are super tech savvy and who want that technology, I love to find ways to teach them that technology can be good. Because I think in this day and age, there's so much technology, but some of us, especially parents, are feeling so reluctant to let our kids on there because we don't know it, because it's new or because it's scary. And it is. But I feel that if we, help our kids and give them those tools, then we feel better as parents and they are better able to navigate. So we do a lot in my house about talking about technology and also creating a balance by finding time to be off of the technology. There are clear expectations. We have some rules. And all of that is always a work in progress, so I wouldn't say it's never going to be perfect, but it's something that we strive to do with our kids is to raise them as productive, good digital citizens in a world that is revolving around technology these days and will continue to.
Like you said, a lot of parents are reluctant. Even I am. So, what kind of tips or guidance would you give parents to make them feel that that it could go in the right direction as well?
Right. So, there's so many pros and cons to technology, right? But if you start from a place where you are sharing in it, I think that's the best place to start. That's where I started when my kids were really young. And as they grow older, like now my 15-year-old, I don't have to check in with him as much.
Yeah.
But we do a lot where we like select media together, we watch it together, we talk about the videos that we're watching. My kids are not on social media, even my 15-year-old. He asked for social media about a few months ago, and we had a big conversation and we watched some videos about it and we talked about it a lot. And in the end, he never came back to ask me for it. And
Oh
then
wow.
when, I said, let's talk about it, let's think about it. And when I checked in, he said, I really don't, I think now is not the good time for me. I think I'd rather stay away from social media for now. Those are decisions that he made. So I like to let them make the decisions, but empower them with the information, right? The same thing with technology. Like with kids, you have to talk a lot. Talk about why it's important to have healthy habits around technology and show them ways to do that. Like my husband and I try to be good role models to our kids in that sense. Put our phones down when we're having dinner. Let them see us doing that, know that it's expected of them as well. Make a lot of intentional time spent together outdoors, connecting with like the real world and nature. My kids love all of that. And they're very in tune with like the world around us and nature and conservation, even though they're so techy and live these full digital lifestyles.
Yeah. And also, when we talked the last time, you said, and there is a big section on your website which talks about homeschooling or like activities to do at home. And I know you homeschool them during COVID or,
We started during COVID, virtual schooling, so they
yes.
were on the computers. It was too much, especially for my little one who was in kindergarten. My teen, he thrived in it. He did very well in that environment. And then we decided to continue homeschooling, and we did for 2 more years after that. Now my children have gone off to school. My teenagers in high school, and my daughter is in a kind of hybrid program. So it's kind
Yeah.
of homeschool, but at a school. Um, and during the pandemic, it was difficult. We were finding our way, but that's when I really realized that everything that I had been saying for years about how technology is important was there, because now technology was so important for these kids to connect. And like my
Yeah.
daughter, for example, had not been exposed to it enough in kindergarten, did not know how to use it. And therefore, it caused a lot of anxiety when she had to go on a Zoom call. Whereas my son, who was older and had been exposed to it a lot more, was comfortable in those settings. So that made me realize even more how important this like connection with technology was for our kids, and how some parents are so reluctant and scared because it is scary, but that there are ways to find that connection. During homeschooling, we did a lot. We did virtual schooling. Then we decided it was too much. We toned it down, more of an approach where we were more outdoors and, doing a lot more field trips and things, at museums and aquariums and spending time outside with friends. But we still had digital components, and the kids still use a lot of digital tools. So, it's hard to find that balance, but it's something that can be done. I feel like when we include our kids also,
Yeah.
what do they want? What do they like about this? What do they not like about this? And then you tweak it as you go. I think mainly as a parent, your children, so you just have to find those ways, as you do with everything else in the world. You figure out how to navigate your child walking home from school alone and teaching them the tools to be able to do that safely. So we want to teach them, the tools for them to go on social media safely, let's say, or surf the web safely. But that all comes with like conversation, a lot of conversation, and a lot of trial and error, and a lot of being also a role model for your children and doing it together and letting them see you also as a human. You make mistakes. My daughter will tell me all the time, Mom, you're paying attention to your phone and not to me. And I'll say, you're absolutely right. I should be putting down my phone now, and we can talk better, and you can have my full attention. And I'll say that out loud so that she understands that, um, these are good habits to have.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of us who don't want our kids to be on the screen or the TV or the iPads when we're doing the same thing. So it's important to set that.
Yeah. And finding like I've had this conversation with many parents, my kids kind of have free range of technology. They can grab their iPad and use it as much as they want all the time. But then we have rules around it.
Yeah,
If you're watching YouTube, it has to be educational.
yeah,
At dinner time, the internet is turned off. When it's time for bed, the internet is also turned off. In the morning, the internet is not on when you wake up, because you have to get ready for school first before you go on the internet. So there are rules and things. And I mean, recently I deleted the YouTube app from our television because I found my daughter was watching too much of it, and I didn't think that it was healthy. We had a conversation about it, and she had to find other programming to watch on TV, which she did. And then she discovered that it's more fun to watch Nickelodeon, let's say, and watch cartoons than to watch YouTube Shorts. So I think you have to include kids in the conversation too, and then guide them, and you do set boundaries. And it's not a free for all, but you do want them to also have ownership of it and feel that they can use it.
You know, we at Junie love STEM. We're all about STEM, all about making kids ready, getting kids ready for the future. So, how about you? Like, do you incorporate any STEM activities? Have you? I mean, they're old now, but like in their like learning years,
Yeah,
growing years, did you incorporate a lot of STEM? I know you have a section on your website as well. Like I said, I love your
yeah.
websites. I know everything now. But what? Yeah, did you incorporate STEM?
Yes, definitely. I mean, as an educator, I saw the value in it with my students. So therefore, I brought it into my home with my kids. And it was as simple for us when they were little as attending Maker Fair that exposed the kids to a lot of like STEM and making and hands on stuff. And the kids loved it. And then we took it from there. I mean, my son, when he was 5, was already wanting to do coding and looking at that. So we found a coder dojo. And, he went and got to build relationships with other people who were maybe older mentors who were doing that. We would do summer camps and things like that. My son joined a STEM club at his school because he felt that that's what he wanted to do. He loved that kind of stuff. And now in high school, he also seeked out robotics team at his school, and he's doing robotics through his
Mhm.
school. And I mean, anytime that I see something for STEM, I jump on it with my kids. My kids love that too. But it can be as simple as just things at home too, without finding a program. I mean, we've done projects, hands-on things at home. I'm not a math person or a science person, but I love that my kids are, and I think it comes from just having them exposed to that at a young age.
Yeah,
Um, and I think all kids today,
yeah,
gravitate towards that. My daughter, for example, is more on the art side, in the STEAM
team.
kind of landscape, and she's super creative. Whereas my son is more like mathematically inclined, and his mind thinks that way. Therefore
Yeah,
he's more like robotics and coding. But I feel like in STEAM more than STEM, there's like a space for all kids in there. Um,
yeah. As a mom, how do you think? You like you said, you've done it early on in their learning years. How do you think STEM, not just for your children, but like generally, how does it work? Like how do you think it benefits them?
Well, I mean, I think that if we start thinking about the future, right? And I even think sometimes back to when I was a student in high school, coming out of high school.
Yeah,
I remember being part of classes that taught me how to type and how to use computers because they were new, and so
yeah,
now because we thought back then that that's what was going to push us to the careers that we needed when I was graduating high school. Now we think of our kids today, like what are the careers of tomorrow? What will that require them to know? And a lot of it is STEM and STEAM, and having those skills, problem solving and working together, and in fields of math and science. There's so much and so many careers that are growing in those fields that I feel like it's so important for our kids to have those skills, or at least to be exposed to them so that they can figure out if that's what they want. And if that's what they want, like my son is very determined that that's his career is in a STEM field. Therefore, we have to empower them and help them find their way through that. But they'll never know if that's what they want if they haven't been exposed to the
yeah,
STEM.
yeah. I know you mentioned that your son was a part of a STEM club.
Yeah, in the past, the STEM club in elementary school, and now he does robotics. He's actually the
Uh-huh.
manager of his robotics team in his high school, and
Oh
they
wow.
compete. It's the first robotics competition.
Mm-hmm.
So
But
it's really
like, if I had to ask you for, let's say, an example of something you did with your kids at home, like just STEM, basic STEM projects, or something you did together, or they did a lot that is helping them now. What
well.
would it?
I think last year when they were both homeschooling, one of our big things was just science projects, and that's so
Mhm.
simple. Like
Yeah,
using ingredients sometimes in our own kitchen.
yeah,
They would do different science experiments to see chemical reactions and things like that that they found fascinating. That just pulled them into learning, and that I mean
yes.
that's part of STEM too.
Mm-hmm.
And then, even I remember one day with my daughter, we just decided to grab some paper cups, like, those big solo, colorful paper cups, and start building huge towers. And that turned into a big project. My husband came in and it was like, how can we build it taller? What can we add to it to make it more sturdy? And,
Yeah.
that's something so
Yeah, it could be
simple.
a family project.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
went out and bought more cups because now she was so into it. And like for weeks, she just continued building. And, that's all problem solving and engineering is in there. And that's just something so simple and it's not screen based at all. So
Yeah.
I feel like, when parents, sometimes we don't want our kids on our screens so much. And although my kids, like I said, they have free range and they use their technology a lot. And I would say 80 to 90% of the time it's for a purpose, like
Hmm.
education. Um, they still have there's so many other things that they could do that it's not screen based, not technology based, but it's
Yeah.
still STEM and STEAM based.
Yeah. And now, you're a tech mother, tech mommy, and you've been a tech teacher, educator. How do you think, or what do you think, rather, how do you think STEM is evolving now in education? Like, where do you see it going?
Well, I mean, I see that it has grown a lot. I mean, I was in the classroom teaching technology almost 10 years ago, and
Hmm.
there wasn't a lot of resources like there are now. And there was very little being done in the classroom, in the everyday classroom. I was
Yes.
a technology teacher specific, so kids were only really doing that when they came to me.
Hmm.
Now I see it more incorporated in everyday classrooms. Kids are using Google Classroom, kids are using the Hour of Code and code.org and things like that in the classroom, and Lego robotics and things like that are being seen more in schools now. I feel like that they were, let's say, 10 years ago, and I imagine that it will be even more 10 years from now. So I like where I see it heading, but it probably still needs work. Like there still needs to be more, and I think that COVID brought that to the forefront, or for me at least, and probably for many educators in schools, who were not on that yet, who were not doing the technology thing yet, started to see where they were lacking and they needed to incorporate more technology to make our kids better prepared
Yeah.
for the world of tomorrow.
Yeah. And also AI is born, and AI is everywhere. Like,
Oh,
do
yeah.
your kids, is AI part of their daily lives now?
It isn't yet. I see where it could be. I've been using AI and I have been sharing with them, like, look how cool this is, what you can do. I do have a lot of educator friends who tell me that AI is really transforming the way that they plan their lessons and create their lessons and their resources for the classroom. So I think that that's wonderful. Any tools that can help us. I think that it's the way that you use it and your expectations of the tool as well. I mean, there is so much. I mean, even apps like my daughter has a favorite app that is AI powered that tells her bedtime stories based off,
Wow.
and it's on my website. You can see, I chatted with the founder of this app there, and you can, learn more about it there. But I think that something like that is marvelous, and she doesn't even know or realize that it's AI. I know it is, but to
Hmm.
have that tool that tells her this bedtime story that's kind of um, programmed to be personal to her and her selections. So it includes the characters she chooses and kind of the storyline that she chooses, and it gives us
Oh, wow.
this fabulous bedtime story that if I were telling her it, I'd have to like, oh, well, what do I
Yeah,
say
I
next? Come
know.
up with this great story that it's
Yeah.
never going enough for her. So this is, so AI is popping into my kid's life slowly but surely. And I think it is for all of us. And I feel like we should find ways to embrace it in productive ways.
Yes. Yes, that's I mean, it's amazing coming from you, and a lot of parents need to hear that as well. Like, AI is going to be the future. Like, research, I was reading something from Pew Research Center. It said, like, AI is not going anywhere for the next 50 years or more.
Hmm.
So it's just best we embrace it now and, like, make good use of it.
Yeah, and
I
our
mean,
kids are using technology more and more every day.
yeah.
They're on their screens more and more every day, and they are going to encounter AI.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's helpful when we help them navigate that, be it in the
Yes.
classroom or at home.
Yes. Again, when we spoke for the first time, we you mentioned that STEM, or like any or STEAM, is not as present or prevalent where you are now. I know you're originally from New York, so do you see a difference? And do you why is it that it hasn't made its reach there yet?
Well, for anyone who's listening and maybe doesn't know who I am or knows about my blog, or those that maybe know me and are wondering why I'm not talking about New York City. We did live in New York City and recently moved to Florida. So it's an entirely different world here. We're used to, my kids were exposed to so much because we lived in such a big city and there were so many options. Here we live in a, more suburban setting, and it's still a very developing community. It's still growing and has grown a lot since COVID, and the pandemic and people moving, to different places. So I feel that there aren't enough like STEM centers or recreation centers or after school programs for kids around STEM in these
Yeah.
areas. And I find that to be very true with homeschoolers as well. There's a very
Mhm.
big homeschooling community here that has been very welcoming to us. But I find that as homeschoolers, many families are also looking to have more of a low tech lifestyle, whereas I
Mhm.
feel like my family has more of a high tech lifestyle. And then for those reasons, they're not seeking out as many of those techie programs or those STEM based programs. Um, and it might be because they're not realizing the full value of it yet, or
Mhm.
because they're maybe scared and resistant to it.
Mhm.
Um, and it also may be just logistics of where we're located. But I do see that there is a need for it and people
Mhm.
are asking about it. So I see that it is something that probably will be more in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, we hope so. Okay, I'm gonna end the podcast with a quick rapid fire. It's just four basic questions. I just like your take on it.
Sure.
And it's gonna be rapid. Like so
Sure.
okay, just whatever comes to your mind.
Okay, got it.
All right. Your take on screen time.
Let's have screen time that's productive.
Okay. Thoughts on remote learning?
Remote learning can be great for some learners, not for all,
Oh, okay. Why do you think STEM is necessary?
because it's the future that will help build our kids' skills for the careers of tomorrow.
Mhm. Name one tool you cannot live without, or your kids cannot live without. Tech tool.
That is so hard. I guess I would say our phones. I guess my kids, my daughter doesn't have a phone that's connected. Like she won't make phone calls, but she does have a phone where she uses apps.
Yes.
I don't know how I lived without my phone before, keeping kind of like my life organized,
Yeah.
in terms of, being able to check email on phone and things like that. So I don't know. I guess I would say your smartphone.
Yeah.
I think for most people, the smartphone.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
I don't know what we did before it.
Yeah.
All right. So, Monica, it was amazing, amazing chatting with you again. And I'm sure we'll be in touch. And thank you for giving your tips, guidance, insightful experiences. And I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to Junie for making STEM and learning something so uh, important for kids.
Yes. Thank you so much. Have a
Thank
good
you. Have
one.
a great one. Bye bye.
Bye.